Hello and welcome to NES Classics. In this installment is the amazing masterpiece Kirby's Adventure, released in 1993 by HAL Laboratory, right at the tail end of the NES's and Famicom's commercial life. 1993 was the year when the 16-bit generation was right in the middle of its glory days. There were many of the best 16-bit games came out that year, so for the last little push of NES and Famicom games, HAL Laboratory made this amazing effort that is just absolutely one of the best games I've ever made. Kirby's Adventure does a whole lot more than just what a standard NES game you would think from. This game really understands what makes an amazing game amazing and how to use a limited color palette and give you the most optimal results by using lots of contrasting colors and really pushing the NES to do things that a lot of people didn't even think was possible. It's amazing to think, to compare this game to early Famicom and NES games like Super Mario Bros. And then compare that to Kirby's Adventure here. Same platform, but what you're getting here is so much more than what you would normally expect from an NES game. This game doesn't even use that much of an advanced mapper, it simply uses the MMC3, which was used in everything from Super Mario Bros. 3 to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2. Just everything used MMC3, so the fact that they didn't even use a really high-end mapper is just all the more impressive. Kirby's Adventure is also one of the only NES games that you really don't need to hold down the power button to reset, thanks to how the game was programmed. The game uses a battery save for 3 different slots, and it's just an amazing effort. Kirby's Adventure is the first Kirby game to allow Kirby to copy his enemies' abilities, a la Mega Man, and this really changes up the gameplay quite a bit. The very first Kirby's game, Kirby's Adventure, or Kirby's Dream Land I should say, was on the Game Boy, and while that game allowed Kirby to, fly around and hail enemies and shoot them out of stars, it did not feature the now famous ability for Kirby to inhale enemies and steal their powers. In addition to that, Kirby has a few other new moves. He can slide to attack enemies, he can double dash to move really quickly, and he has far more animation than he did in the Game Boy original. It might seem weird nowadays, but this is also the first Kirby game that Kirby appeared pink. In the original Kirby's Dream Land, there was no color, obviously, because it was an original Game Boy game. And as such, character artists differed on what color Kirby should be. Shigeru Miyamoto wanted Kirby originally to be yellow, whereas in the original box art, at least the North American box art, Kirby appeared completely white. For Kirby's Adventure here, the color was finally chosen to be pink, and he's been that ever since. Kirby's Adventure is not a very difficult game, and that really stems from the fact that this game is sort of making it to be accessible but to everyone. Little kids, girls, whoever. You don't play this game for the challenge, you play it because it is just so beautiful and so much fun to play. The entire game can be marathon, but that's not really how you should play Kirby's Adventure. This is a game best played maybe a few levels or maybe a world at a time. You don't want to just speedrun this entire thing because it'll be over far too quickly if you do it that way. This is like a dish best served, best enjoyed slowly. Kirby's Adventure was remade in 2002 for the Game Boy Advance. The Game Boy Advance version was called Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland. And that game is, although the same game, it is far more colorful, a la the 16-bit Kirby designs, and you know what? I actually don't think it's as good as Kirby's Dream Land, or Kirby's Adventure here. What you get here is a game that really understands the limitations of the hardware, and since the Game Boy Advance, obviously doesn't have any limitations when doing a simple 8-bit platformer like this, it just doesn't have the same sort of impact. There are neat little things added to the Game Boy Advance version, such as like the sword ability here. In the Game Boy Advance version, Kirby wears a green little tunic, obviously a reference to The Legend of Zelda. But in this original game, he's just Kirby. Doesn't adorn any weird hats or anything. I mean, just look at this here. Look at the hills in the background. It's again, a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Limited color palette, but using the colors to the best of their abilities to give you a beautiful game. Kirby's Adventure can be found in a few different formats. You can not only find it for the original NES like this, but you can also find it on the Wii Virtual Console. It's available in a Kirby Collection disc for the Wii. Again, it was remade for the Game Boy Advance. And no matter what version you play for Kirby's Adventure, this is one of the best Nintendo games of its era. Many people consider it to be the Famicom's swan song, but I don't really think that's the case. While other late 1993 releases, such as Mega Man 6, were really quite good, it was actually 1994 that saw the finest NES games ever. That was the year when the very last Famicom game ever made was released, and that was Adventure Island 4. Or Takahashi no Bojin Jima 4? Gon? I forget what it's called. I don't know what just happened there. Sorry about that. This is like the star in Super Mario Bros. That makes you invincible for a short period. Alright, there we go. Must have had a loose connection. Alright, boss time. It might be cheap, but it is oh so fun. Alright. If you've never played Kirby's Adventure, I would say this is probably one of the best Kirby games ever made. I really do think that it is one of the best games of its era, and kids these days ought to play this game to really understand, what makes really good games amazing. This stands the test of time very well, and it's an amazing, fun game. So thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions, let me know, and just like always, I'll see you next time.